A young sailor named Daniel lived in a little village next to a restless sea. Each morning, before the sun had fully come up, Daniel would make his way to the harbor and watch the fishing boats disappear into the deep blue water. He loved the sea, but he was afraid of it as well. From the shore, the sea seemed beautiful. Yet Daniel understood that something beautiful could also be dangerous. On some days, the water was peaceful and still. The boats moved softly across the water, while the fishermen returned home with full nets and joyful faces. But on other days, the sea changed completely. The waves grew rough and powerful. The wind made a loud noise as it moved through the ropes. The boats were tossed around like little toys. Thick, dark clouds filled the sky, and the sea looked as if it had no kindness. Daniel had always wanted to become a great sailor. However, there was one thing holding him back. He wanted to learn sailing without having to go through any storms. His father had spent most of his life as a sailor. He had traveled through dangerous seas, lived through torn sails, lost boats, and come back safely from storms that had frightened whole villages. One evening, Daniel finally shared his dream with his father. "I want to become a sailor," he said. His father smiled. "Then you will come with me tomorrow." Daniel felt very excited. The following morning, his father took him out on an old fishing boat called Hope. For the first few hours, everything went well. The sea was peaceful, the wind was light, and the boat moved easily over the water. Daniel held the wheel and smiled. "This is much easier than I expected," he said. His father gave a quiet laugh. "You have only seen the sea when it is calm." Daniel did not understand what his father was trying to tell him. During the next few weeks, his father taught him everything he knew. He showed Daniel how to understand the wind, how to make strong knots, how to tell which way the waves were moving, how to fix a sail, how to keep the boat steady, and how to remain calm when something went wrong. Daniel learned fast, but whenever his father told him they should go farther from the shore, Daniel always found a reason to stay close to land. The weather might change. "The waves seem different today. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow." His father never made him go. He simply watched him. One afternoon, Daniel noticed another young sailor named Samir getting his boat ready. Samir did not have much money. His boat was smaller than Daniel's, his clothes were old, and even his fishing equipment looked well used. Still, Samir was confident. Daniel asked him, "Where are you going?" "Past the rocks in the north," Samir answered. Daniel looked toward the dark clouds in the distance. "That place might be dangerous." Samir smiled. "I know." "Then why are you going there?" "Because one day I must learn how to deal with dangerous water." Daniel shook his head. "You could wait for the weather to get better." Samir looked up at the sky. "If I sail only when the sea is calm and perfect, I will never become a good sailor." Then Samir left. Daniel stood there and watched the little boat slowly disappear into the distance. That night, Daniel kept thinking about Samir's words. But he still did nothing. The months went by. Daniel became very skilled at sailing on calm water. People in the village began to praise him. He has a natural gift. He handles the boat very well. He is going to become a great sailor. Daniel liked hearing these things, but there was something the villagers did not know. Daniel had never taken a boat through a real storm. He knew what to do when everything was going smoothly, but he had no idea what he would do when everything went wrong. Then, one autumn morning, something happened that changed his life. Daniel's father became sick. The village doctor told them that he needed medicine from a town on the other side of the sea. The weather report was bad. A storm was expected that evening. Daniel looked at his father. "I will go." His father slowly opened his eyes. "Are you certain?" Daniel nodded. "I know how to sail." His father smiled. "I know you do." Daniel took the list of medicine, made the boat ready and set off. At first, The trip was easy. The sea remained quiet. The wind carried the boat forward. Daniel felt sure of himself. He even laughed when he thought about his old fears. All those years of being afraid now seemed foolish to him. Then he noticed that something was different. The sky had changed. The clouds were turning darker. The wind was growing stronger, and the waves were getting higher. Daniel tried to turn the boat back toward the village, but the wind pushed against him. He tried once more. A huge wave suddenly struck the side of the boat. Daniel held tightly to the wheel. For the first time in his life, he felt that he had no control, that the rain started coming down. Heavy clouds hid the sky. The sea was no longer blue. It had turned black. Another wave crashed against the boat. One of the ropes broke. The sail twisted wildly in the strong wind. Daniel tried to remember the lessons his father had given him, but his fear made it difficult to think. He grabbed the wrong rope. The boat suddenly turned. Water poured onto the deck. Daniel dropped down onto his knees. For a short moment, he believed that he might die. Then he remembered something his father had told him many times. When the sea turns wild, do not try to control the whole ocean. Deal with the next problem in front of you. Daniel took a slow, deep breath. He looked at the broken rope. One problem, he repaired it. Then he turned his attention to the sail. Another problem, he tied it down securely. Next, he looked at the water that had entered the boat. Another problem, he began getting the water out. The storm continued around him, but Daniel was no longer allowing panic to control him. For the next several hours, he kept working. The waves forced the boat backward. Daniel worked to move it forward again. The wind ripped another part of the sail. He repaired that part too. The rain made his clothes completely wet. Still, he continued. The darkness frightened him. He kept his eyes focused ahead. Then a huge wave lifted the boat so high that Daniel could see nothing around him except water. The boat came down with great force. The wood cracked. Daniel fell once more. His hands were bleeding. He was completely tired. He wanted to stop. Then he thought about his father. He remembered the first day he had stepped onto Hope. He remembered all the mornings when the sea had been calm. Suddenly, he realized something important. Those peaceful days had taught him how to operate a boat, but this storm was teaching him how to truly become a sailor. Those were two different things. Anyone can look skilled when the sea is quiet. True ability shows itself when the sea refuses to make things easy. Daniel kept working for hour after hour. At last, the storm started to lose its power. Clouds slowly began to break apart. A thin strip of sunlight appeared along the horizon. Daniel looked toward the shore. He had survived. When he finally arrived back at the village, people came running toward him. They had been waiting for him. They believed that he had been lost at sea. Daniel climbed down from the boat. He could hardly stay on his feet. His clothes were torn apart. His hands were full of cuts. The boat was badly damaged, but the medicine was still safe. Daniel carried it to his father. His father looked at him quietly for a long time. Then he smiled. "You have finally met the sea." Daniel gave a soft laugh. Yes. He looked down at his injured hands. It was not very kind. His father smiled again. The sea was never meant to be kind. Daniel remained beside his father until he became healthy again. But after that storm, Daniel was no longer the same. He stopped looking for easy water. He began traveling farther out to sea. He learned from sailors who had more experience. He trained in strong winds. He learned how to fix damaged boats. He spent time studying the sky. He learned to respect the sea instead of simply being afraid of it. Slowly, the young man who had once stayed away from storms became one of the sailors people trusted most in the village. Years later, several young sailors asked Daniel how he had become so skilled. One of them asked, out toward the sea, "What is your secret?" "There is no secret." The young sailor asked, "Then how did you become so good?" Daniel smiled. "I stopped waiting for the sea to become easier." The young sailors looked at him with confused faces. Daniel continued, "I once believed that a good life meant having peaceful water all the time. I also believed that successful people were lucky because they had fewer problems. I was wrong." He pointed toward the ocean. "A calm sea cannot teach a sailor every skill he needs." The young sailors became quiet. Daniel looked at them hard. "Times do not always come to destroy you. Sometimes they come to teach you." He paused for a moment. "The rejection you hate may be helping you learn patience. The failure that makes you feel ashamed may be showing you what you need to learn before you can succeed. The loneliness you never wanted may be teaching you how to stand on your own. The delay that makes you frustrated may be getting you ready for something you are not prepared to handle yet. And the storm you keep asking to disappear may be the very thing that helps you grow stronger." Many years passed, and Daniel became an old man. His hair turned white. His hands became rough. The sea had left scars across his skin. Even so, he still went to the harbor every morning. One day, he noticed a young boy standing beside the water. The boy was watching the boats. Daniel walked over to him. "Do you want to become a sailor?" The boy nodded. "But I am afraid." Daniel smiled. "I was afraid too." The boy looked surprised. "You were?" "Yes." "Then how did you stop being afraid?" Daniel looked toward the ocean. "I did not." The boy frowned. "You did not?" Daniel shook his head. "No, I learned that I could keep going even when I was afraid." The boy said nothing. Daniel gently put a hand on his shoulder. "Remember this. Being brave does not mean that you never feel fear. Being brave means deciding that your future matters more than your fear." The boy looked at the sea again. That morning, the water was calm. Daniel smiled, but he knew that one day the boy would have to face a storm of his own. He hoped that when that day came, the boy would remember the lesson Daniel had learned many years before. The storm would not be his enemy. It would be his teacher, maybe. You are facing a storm in your life, right? Now, maybe things are not happening the way you planned. Maybe you worked very hard and still failed. Maybe you trusted someone, but that person disappointed you. Maybe you started something with hope, but you are waiting much longer than you expected for the results. Maybe you watch the people around you move forward while you feel like you are still standing in the same place. And maybe you keep asking yourself, why is my life so difficult? But perhaps there is a better question. Instead of asking only, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this experience trying to teach me? You do not need a perfect life in order to become strong. You do not need every day to be easy to create a meaningful future. You need challenges. You need mistakes. You need moments when life gives you no choice but to discover what you are truly able to do. So do not hate every storm that comes into your life. Some storms arrive to destroy, but other storms arrive to help you grow. Sometimes the hardest part of your life is quietly getting you ready to become the person you once hoped you could be. If the sea is rough right now, keep holding the wheel. Take care of the things you can change. Move one step forward, then take another step. You do not need to control the entire ocean. You only need to continue moving. And one day, you may look back at the storm you once wanted so badly to escape and understand something beautiful. The storm did not break you. It taught you how to sail. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Jerry Tales for more motivational stories, powerful life lessons, and stories designed to help you become stronger, wiser, and better than yesterday. I'll see you in the next story.